And welcome back, everybody. Episode 191 of Two Goalies, One Mic, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from at 6 different Western New York locations. Lots of fun stuff going on at all their locations. Had a great time this past weekend for Memorial Day festivities. If you need a beer, make sure you make it a Fatty Beer. Let them know Two Goalies, One Mic sent you. I am Duane, joined by my co-host Connor Hurley. I thought today was going to be a very, not going to say easy show, but just kind of just one of those, no news is, no news days. We talk about Tage's goal at the World Juniors and, pretty quick in and out. But Frank the Tank is at it again, and more JJ Peterka stuff from Frank dating back to the deadline, kind of doubling down on believing that he's available. So Connor, your thoughts on that, and just how was your week?
I'm not at all surprised that Peterka would be available or even spoken about amongst NHL GMs. Anyone not named Tage Thompson or Rasmus Dahlin, I think, is within reason to be available as far as the Buffalo Sabres are concerned. So that's not surprising to me at all. He's a really good player, and he's probably going to command potentially $7 million plus in the open market. So anytime you have a young 22, 23-year-old guy who's improved each of his 3 seasons in the NHL, 18-plus point improvement in 3 straight seasons. He went from 32 points to 50 points, 50 points to 68 points. If that trend continues, he's going to have 86 points next season. So that would be over a point per game player. I don't necessarily expect that, but it wouldn't shock me given what he's done thus far in his career. So yeah, I think you absolutely try to sign him if you can, but I would also listen to offers if those offers come along, or let's say if it's an offer sheet, given that he is a restricted free agent. So not surprised by that at all, and I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of sides to this too for me. Do we want to lose JJ Peterka? Of course not. You'd be stupid to not want JJ Peterka on your team, especially with the kind of current state of the franchise and where we are. And honestly, I think he's the one guy, at least not named, not named Rasmus Dahlin, where you can look at his body of work so far, and he's gotten better every season. You kind of question when you sign guys, Kevin Adams has signed guys in long terms, probably sooner than he should have. The guys like Samuelson, you're kind of betting on the potential, betting on, the fact that you think they have a high ceiling, that eventually they'll get to that ceiling, but you don't take, obviously other things come and, kind of hinder that, like the injuries with Samuelson, amongst other things. But I feel like signing a guy like JJ Peterka to a long-term deal, I feel pretty good about that. Wouldn't you? From what we've seen so far, he hasn't taken steps back.
No, not at all. His defensive numbers this past season were pretty brutal, and the season before was the only season that was even worse than that. So obviously not ideal. He's not a perfect player by any means, but for where they got him in the draft, I think they traded up to the beginning of the second round to get him, which seemed like a steal at the time. And it turns out his speed, his shot, his offensive playmaking have been, I would say, beyond expectation. So yeah, he's a guy that I think you would want to keep around, but Saravelli's getting this information from somewhere. And the most likely place he's getting it from is probably his agent or agents from teams that are talking to the Sabres as well, or someone affiliated with other front offices. He's likely not making this up with as much smoke as there's been around this exact topic. So it's coming from somewhere, and whether it's true or not, in totality of the report, I can't say that for certain. But at the end of the day, there is a little bit of smoke, and I do believe that rather than potentially not being able to sign him and going to arbitration or whatever you have to do, potentially getting a really good return for something that you don't have currently on your team is maybe an avenue to explore. So obviously don't want to lose him, but you got to have those discussions when you're a franchise that has missed the playoffs for 14 straight years.
Yeah, and to your point, like you mentioned before, the fact that Frank is doubling down on this, back when we were live with Lazzy, Johnny Lazarus, when it first dropped, um, that the Rangers had a ton of interest, that he was on the market at the deadline, and now again here we are, almost 2 months later. It's the same, the same thing, and I don't know. Do you give any credence to the rumors that maybe he's just unhappy and he doesn't want to be here?
Yeah, I do. I would be concerned if he wasn't unhappy. Anybody on the team is probably not necessarily the happiest position in the world to be on a team that after 14 straight seasons of missing the playoffs, not only have they not made a single move to their coaching staff, but the front office is exactly the same. So, yeah, I would say that's probably pretty frustrating, especially as an ascending player in the league, looking at other guys who have left the organization, have gone on to greater heights and Conn Smythe trophies and Stanley Cup championships. I'd be shocked if he was happy. So, yeah, that I would say that's pretty likely.
Do you think he wants out?
I don't know that for sure. I think there's a line between being unhappy and wanting out because he gets a lot of play time. He's on the first power play unit. He's been on the first line for most of the past 2 seasons. So that's a pretty good position to be in as a 22-year-old NHL player. So there is a fine line between being unhappy and wanting out. I think if the situation was good for him and he was able to go somewhere where it fit his skill set and he was able to have as many opportunities or an equal opportunity at a different place, yeah, I think he would jump at that opportunity. But no, I can't say for sure whether he would want out or not. I would say it's probably pretty irresponsible for anybody not named JJ Peterka to say that he wants out.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, he has been given a ton of opportunity here in Buffalo to have those numbers, playing alongside a guy like Alex Talk, Tage Thompson. I mean, he's been pretty much up and down that. He's pretty much been a part of just about any line combination you can think of, and he's found ways to succeed in any situation. So, I guess the talk about offer sheets comes up, right? Like we saw it last year with the Blues and Edmonton, and it really worked out well for St. Louis. And I am a big offer sheet guy. Like I think Buffalo, and given that it hurts that they don't have their own second round pick, you probably have to try and find a way to reacquire that pick. I forget who we traded it. Was that part of the Cousins trade? I think.
Yeah, it was the Josh Norris deal.
Yeah. So I mean, Ottawa has that. You'd have to reacquire that, but like regardless, like offer sheets, I think are going to be a thing this summer, and I think JJ Peterka probably might be at the top of a lot of teams' lists. But if you're JJ Peterka and you're unhappy, why would you sign an offer sheet? That's a real question because you're giving Buffalo the opportunity to match it, and then guess what? You don't want to be in Buffalo? Tough luck. You're here. I mean, it's not lost on me that we control his rights no matter what. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like you can't. He has high value right now. Do you want to take the chance to take him to arbitration, give him an arbitration deal, or bridge deal? Things not improve, and then that situation kind of worsens. He loses value, and then you're not getting as much of a haul for him as you possibly would hope. I'm not advocating trading for the guy, but if he doesn't see a future for himself in Buffalo and he doesn't meet that Kevin Adams narrative, a guy who, we want guys that want to be here, do you trade him this offseason before the offer sheets do start coming in?
The whole "we want guys that want to be here" thing is going to come real stale if the playoff drought reaches 15 years. So that's not a sustainable modus operandi to have as an organization. I think the best possible thing they can do is gauge the market as much as they can. Also try to potentially gauge the Mitch Marner market as much as they can. If they think they can sign Mitch Marner, then trading JJ Peterka or not matching an offer sheet becomes way more likely because you're not going to be able to pay everybody. And if you're giving Mitch Marner $14+ million a year, Peterka might be out the door and in not as good favor anymore. So I think that is very much relevant in this discussion as well.
What do you value Peterka right now? Like, what's his value for you? Let's say on a bridge deal, a 3-year bridge deal. What's his value to you?
At least $6 million. I would say.
I was thinking more like 6.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say at the lowest level, given his ascension. I think his defensive game absolutely has to improve. He's not just an offensive player, and he's not a. I mean, he plays like McDavid sometimes, but he's not only going to give you offense, and McDavid just doesn't do that himself. But you know what I'm saying. So I would say at least 6 million, probably 6.5, likely closer to 7. And if you give him a long-term deal, it's probably in that 7 times 7, his number 77 range. So I would say something similar to that. And given his age and his increase of 18 points every single season he's played in the NHL, and he's played at minimum 77 games. So he stayed relatively healthy through 3 years in his career too, which is another feather that he has in his cap. I think he is at least getting 6.5, likely 7 or even above that.
Yeah, like listen, I would love in a perfect world, I'd love to see a situation where we could, have our cake and eat it too. We can sign JJ Peterka and still pursue Mitch Marner. But to your point, to start that, like if you aren't signing JJ Peterka long term, you better be in a serious conversation for Mitch Marner, Sam Bennett, or Aaron Ekblad, or Brock Besser, like these players that are going to be available, and you unrestricted free agency. You better be in those conversations, because you just can't lose a guy like Peterka. I mean, grant, yes, you probably get quite a bit back. Like that's the thing too. I don't want to lose him in an offer sheet. I don't want picks back for JJ Peterka, right? Like I feel like you'd probably be on my side with this. I don't care about first round picks. I want proven players back.
Yeah, 100%. The organization has no time for any futures prospects at this point.
Yeah, I have zero interest in, and especially with this organizations, unless it's a first overall pick, its inability to hit on picks. I mean, I'm not saying they're terrible at it, but I just don't give any of my trust to this scouting staff or this GM to make the correct picks, especially when we're still how far into the offseason so far. We still can't figure out who the senior advisor is going to be, which we'll talk about again in a minute. But yeah, it's a little concerning for me, all this stuff about JJ Peterka. Give it a lot of time thought. We did our very first TikTok today. I've never done a TikTok before, but we made a TikTok account, and I talked about it a little bit on that. So give that a follow if you're on TikTok. I'm personally not even on TikTok. It's the show's TikTok. But I still actually don't even know how to make one. I sent it to Joey, and he did it. So I couldn't even tell you how to make it. So I technically didn't even make a TikTok. He did. But make sure you give us a follow. We'll probably be doing like quick hit news updates on that from now on, and posting them to X and Instagram and whatnot. Something we've kind of been talking about for a while. Tage Thompson scores the golden goal. First time the Team USA wins the men's worlds in 92 years. In Captain Tage fashion. The curl, the drag, and absolutely just rips it to the back of the net. Pretty cool, to say the least, to have it be him and have such a strong showing, and proving guys like Bill Guerin wrong that he should have been included on the Four Nations tournament. But it just kind of sucks, Hurls, that like we've had this much. We're going into our 4th year of Tage producing like this, and his biggest accomplishment isn't even in a Sabres uniform.
Yeah, unfortunate to say the least, but we don't need to get into that. 9 points in 10 games for Tage, 6 goals and 3 assists. Pretty similar to how he's produced as a Sabre. So that's good to see that he's not only healthy, he made it through the tournament healthy, but he produced at a pretty high rate for a really talented Team USA team. Only Shane Pinto, Clayton Keller, Connor Garland, Logan Cooley, and Frank Nazar, all NHL players, and they produced similar. Nazar was the higher scoring player for the USA, and he had 12 points, 6 goals and 6 assists in 10 games. So it's really encouraging to see, especially in that type of game. It's a little bit different at the World Championship level, and I do think it caters to Tage's game to have a little bit more space out there. But yeah, obviously the goal was vintage Tage Thompson, and also it's good to see him score in big moments in clutch time to know that, yeah, he hasn't really had the opportunity to do that in a Sabres uniform, but it's pretty cool to see that he was able to meet the moment. So obviously a really good sign for him, and also his prospects to make the Olympic team. I think he's all but solidified that. I think those in power probably realize that both him and Clayton Keller, probably Logan Cooley, should all have been on the Four Nations roster in place of potentially Brock Nelson, Vincent Trocheck, Chris Kreider, et al. So yeah, really cool to see, and really excited to see him play in Milan next winter.
You think he played a little bit of a chip on his shoulder?
I would say a little bit. Like, how could you not, right? Like, it seemed like he was potentially the last guy left off that roster, and with the season that he had this past year, it seemed like he was more than deserving. And even after he got left off towards the end of the year, he kind of went on a bit of a tear. So it would be probably stupid of him not to use it as motivation, not only with the Sabres, but especially in a tournament like this. It was a really young group, guys like Zeev Buium, who had just gotten into the NHL, and you know what he's done with the USA crest on his sweater. He's won 2 world championships, not only in addition to his NCAA championships as well, but this world championship to make it 5 in the past 5 years. But it's pretty cool to see, especially first time in 92 years, which I didn't know. Probably speaks to the fact that we haven't been able to get the best teams for these tournaments based upon who was still playing in the playoffs. But it also speaks to the USA National Development Program and everything coming out of USA Hockey right now. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, and for me too, just like that 92 years, like that's almost like Curse of the Great Bambino stuff. Like if you're a baseball fan, like I'm a big Red Sox fan, like you would think in a tournament, and not to take anything away from the men's world, but obviously it's going on during the playoffs. So you're not getting like the world's very best players because those guys are still playing in the playoffs. But to hear 92 years, that, again, to your point, that was really surprising for me. In terms of like the men's like Team USA in Milan, the Olympics, I mean, again, that would be played on Olympic ice. I would expect even more from him with the even higher end talent he'd be playing with, whether he's playing on the wing, center, playing with one of the 2 Tkachuk brothers, both Tkachuk brothers, whoever he's playing with, man, it's really an exciting thought to think that like the potential for Sabres representation in the Olympics. You imagine Peterka, if he's still a Sabre, will represent, obviously, as it Germany. He'll be representing Germany. Dahlin, obviously, with Sweden. You'd have UPL. I imagine, hopefully, UPL will be one of the 3 goalies in for Finland. And then Tage, maybe even Tuck. I don't know. We'll see how far along Tuck comes the next couple of years. I mean, you could give him serious thought, especially how well he plays at both ends of the ice. Especially if that's the way Bill Guerin, wants to build a team, if he is the one building it again. Why wouldn't you want an Alex Tuck on your team?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously biased, but objectively, he was one of the best all-around forwards in the game this past season. So I think he could, if you do want to add that toughness, that ability to do everything at the 3rd, 4th line, bottom half of your forward lineup, I do think that would be a good decision for them. But I think Tage is a sure thing, provided he stays healthy and produces at a similar clip to begin this upcoming NHL season. And then, if Tuck plays similarly to how he did throughout the course of this entire season, and he stays healthy, I think he's got a pretty good shot too.
Yeah, that was a surprising stat at the end of the season, him breaking that record for, what was it, block shots single season for a forward. That was pretty surprising. That kind of snuck up on us, to say the least. Rochester's season obviously ends pretty early, a lot earlier than, not early, but earlier than we would have hoped. They lose game 5 elimination game, 5-game series elimination game 5 against the Laval Rocket. I think Levi had a spectacular season. Even though obviously there's probably some goals he would have liked back against Laval, I still think he had a fantastic playoff. Held a below 1 goals against average, and the sweep against Syracuse in the first round. And then again, I thought, the team as a whole in Rochester. Like guys that you would expected to show up, like Kulik, guys like Austin. I thought Rosen had a really good second round, but a lot of guys didn't show up as well as you think they would. I watched every game. But Levi specifically, what's the next step for him? Granted, this wasn't a long playoff run, but I have to imagine Kevin Adams' company is pretty happy with his progress and his development this season. I think he had like 7 or 8 shutouts. His goals against and his save percentage were great. Obviously, there's a big question mark in net for next season. A lot of questions that needed to be answered here in the next coming months. Just your overall thoughts, Hurls, on Devin Levi, the season he had at Rochester, and what you think the next steps for him are.
Yeah, so the negotiation should be pretty simple in terms of the RFA discussion that they have with him. Obviously, his development is moving right along, and I think the numbers that he put up throughout the year and the playoffs suggest that he can only continue to improve upon that. Obviously, the NHL discussion is a bit complicated. I think it really depends on what route they go from the veteran goalie perspective, or let's say they give up on UPL after one bad season or the one full season that he had this past year, then obviously that could change the course of Devin Levi's NHL path really quickly. But provided that they keep UPL and likely go the veteran goalie route, then he goes to camp and tries to compete with whoever they sign. I think that not a lot of people would be very confident with a combination of UPL and Levi going into the next season, just because it technically hasn't worked up until this point, and they're both pretty unproven at that level. But I think both of them has shown at their best that they can be really good, and they are still really young, so they're hopefully only going to get better. But yeah, I think it was a really good year for him to see as many shots as possible. And obviously, we talk about it all the time, the second best league in the world against really, really good players. Of course, you would like to see the team go farther, but that's totally not on him. And inserting the guys like Kulik that you said into that lineup as late as they did, it's hard to build chemistry. It's hard to get a semblance of what they had and probably the chemistry that they had throughout the regular season and the playoffs. So that makes it a little bit difficult. But yeah, I think all in all, a pretty good developmental year for him, and you'll see what happens in training camp, and then you go from there.
Yeah, and to like just Dan Fates brought up with us, like you have Yuri Kulik playing at this speed, at this level, this IQ, whereas you're playing with maybe some guys on this team that are gonna be lifelong AHLers. They're like here, so it's tough. Like it's tough to go from playing at an NHL speed to playing at the AHL speed, because there is a difference. It might be the second bbest league in the world, but there is a big gap in skill. So, I mean, that definitely plays into it too. But in the subject of Levi, would I like to see him play maybe one more year in Rochester? For sure. I think his next contract, to your point, will be pretty simple. It'll probably be a 2 or 3 year deal. I imagine, with that first year being a 2-way, back and forth to Rochester, without, obviously, you don't have to deal with the possibility of waivers. And then the second year, that deal will probably be a 1-way. I'd have to imagine. Leave the option open next year for having him be in Buffalo without, again, risking losing him to waivers. And then, that following year, it's Buffalo or bust.
Yeah, I would say that is the most likely path. And that follows along with how NHL goalies, even a guy a lot of people have compared him to, Dustin Wolf, how they followed their own development path in terms of the amount of AHL games played before getting to the NHL, and then succeeding as their path dictated. So I would, I'd agree. I think one more full year in the AHL would probably be best. It would be best for everybody, not having to insert him back into the NHL before he's necessarily ready. And then hopefully after that, whoever's up in Buffalo alongside him would be ready to hit the ground running from there. So I do agree that would be best.
Mm-hmm. And I think they definitely still leave that door open in training camp, obviously, for him to make the roster, right? Like that's obvious. Again, I think that, in terms of obviously being faced with adversity and just competing, I think Devin Levi would really take that in stride and accept that as a as a challenge, and I'm excited to see how his offseason progresses, and obviously finally get some time off here and just decompress and get ready for obviously training camp whenever that is. I think when is train? I mean, we're looking way far ahead, but training camp starts with like they're starting September.
Yeah,
September,
early to mid-September.
Yeah, so you got a long summer ahead of you. Decompress. I know he trains a lot back home in Montreal. I forget his coach's name. Remember he posts a lot of content on his Instagram whenever he goes back home and works with this guy. But he's been working with him ever since he was a kid, I think. So, next topic, you been watching any of the playoffs? I know you're a busy guy, but
yeah, a little bit here and there. Have the Edmonton Dallas game on right now. Obviously, it's trending towards a rematch of last year, Edmonton and Florida. But I think everybody thought the Carolina-Florida game series would be over yesterday, and then the Hurricanes do what the Hurricanes do and lock it down and create a super ugly game and win a 3-0 game yesterday. So I'd be shocked if they came all the way back, but it's nice to see that they're hopefully at least going to make it a series. And then as far as Edmonton and the Stars are concerned, it's crazy to think that the Oilers could get back to the Cup final after making all the changes they did this offseason, after being down to both, I guess it was the Kings, and then I forget who they played last round. They've been down and out a lot of this playoffs, and they've always come back, and they have two of the four best players in the world in McDavid and Draisaitl. So seeing them produce in the way that they have and play at their highest level and prove their worth in more ways than one has been pretty cool to see. And I personally would like to see a rematch of last year.
Yeah.
I think we didn't necessarily get the best matchup, given that it went 3-0 and then obviously got to game 7, but I would like to see a little bit more of a back and forth series between those two if it does get to that.
Yeah.
But
love to see
neither of these two are over, so we'll see what happens.
I definitely would love to see them trade punches. Again, McDavid just like willing them to the finals again. Obviously, he's not putting the same numbers this playoff as he did last playoff. I think like his numbers last year were like disgusting heading into the finals. Like he was putting up like Gretzky level playoff numbers, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he's still leading the playoffs in points. So it's not like he is not exceeding expectations by any sense. It's just not otherworldly compared to what it was last year. But
no.
He has 22, Draisaitl has 21, Bouchard has 17. They have 3 of the top 4 point scorers in the playoffs. So their offense is going to come. And look at Stuart Skinner. He got pulled. And now he's given up 1 goal in the past 2 games. So anything can happen, especially when you get a hot goalie. And I think Florida knows that as well as anybody with Bobrovsky. So, yeah, I'm interested to see if they can close it out in the way that a lot of people expected them to. But, yeah, it's been pretty exciting. I think it's been a good playoff.
Like Stuart Skinner has just been not to say unreal, but like I definitely feel we're getting a better version this year than we had last year, right? Like he played well last year, but this season, like given just some of the adversity he's faced and just you kind of heard them questioning the goaltending again, like they should have done more to solidify their net. I think Stuart Skinner has been just fantastic, and not to mention he's got one of the best mustaches in all of hockey.
Yeah, that definitely looks pretty good. But I mean, he's not putting otherworldly numbers aside from the past 2 games. 902 save percentage, 266 goals against. Like he has been good when he's needed to be, and especially mental aspect, like coming back from getting pulled and also being injured. Like that is a big deal for any goalie, especially with the amount of pressure that exists on him being the hometown goalie on a team that hasn't had good goaltending in a really long time, and the pressure to get Connor McDavid a Stanley Cup championship. It is a lot, but I think he's handled it pretty well. And see if he can keep it up.
It's Skinner too. Like it might start McDavid too. Like I'm really, really, really am hoping this is the year he finally he wins a cup, because to be this long into your career, be that good and to not have not won a cup yet, it's almost criminal.
Yeah, and it's definitely not his fault. So no. I think that he would be a worthy recipient, probably the worthiest. And of the stories remaining, I think it would be the best story for hockey, and it would be the best for the game that it possibly could be, especially given that he's not a Buffalo Sabre, unfortunately, due to one ping pong ball.
Yep. Well, and on the flip side of that, like if Florida were to win, like you could be looking at hockey's first dynasty since, ironically, the Edmonton Oilers when Gretzky played.
Yeah, it would be pretty remarkable.
Right? I'm not mistaken there. It would be either those Oilers teams or maybe even you go maybe the Islanders teams with.
I mean, yeah, I mean, given that it's two, you have the discussions about the Lightning, the Red Wings, the Blackhawks, the Kings.
I'm talking like 3 in a row.
Would this be 3 in a row?
No, if they won this year, then you're having that conversation of
right.
3 in a row.
Right.
Like that'd be the
3 in a row is when you start the dynasty talk. I don't think you
Yeah.
started at 2, just given how many teams have won 2 in a row, or at least 2 out of 3, especially in the past 20 years. But yeah, I mean, given the group they have, it's definitely not out of the question.
Yeah, it would definitely. I don't want to root for Florida at all. Like I hate the fact that a Sun Belt team like that has won a cup before a market like ours. But I mean, it would be fun as a hockey fan to see see a team pushed to be a dynasty, especially. And I think they have a lot of interesting UFAs coming up. Like we brought up Sam Bennett and Ekblad. I could totally see those guys sticking around, even signing for less money to have the opportunity to be on a dynasty. I'm not trying to put the carriage in front of the horse, but it's just a conversation that we can have that if Florida were to win its second cup in a row.
Well, it would support Kevin Adams' theory of no taxes and palm trees succeeding as an organization. That would put another notch in his belt. That's for sure.
I forget who said it. Maybe it was the Spit and Chicklets guys. Maybe it was Biz. But do you agree that Sam Bennett's a $10 million hockey player?
I mean, in terms of what's going to happen on the free agent market, given that aside from Marner, it's relatively thin. Yeah, he probably will be. Someone's going to give it to him. Whether
I could go $8 million.
Yeah, whether he deserves that or not is another discussion. But I don't necessarily think anybody's qualified to say that one way or another. Like the cap's going up. He's almost leading the playoffs in goals. He provides that type of game where he can do just about anything. You saw him in the Four Nations. He'll fight a guy if he needs to. He's on the penalty kill. He plays a good defensive game, and he can produce. Like, who wouldn't want a guy like that? And on the open market in a relatively light free agency year, yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. So whether he deserves it or not, like, I'm not sure. But, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
It's almost like Matthew Tkachuk light, right? The way he plays the game. He doesn't have as much skill, no, but he does all the other things that like a guy like Tkachuk does. And like speaking of which, how he like had zero concern about the puck off the opening face-off and was just looking for some. I love that the Sean Avery breakdowns with his little pointer on the screen have been hilarious. Regardless of what you think about Sean Avery as like the player in person, I've loved those, and just how like he broke that down with, this is a real leader. This is a real teammate. How Tkachuk went after Sebastian Aho after he what was it, like a knee to knee on Sam Reinhart or something along those lines. Yeah. Did you see that video from Avery?
I didn't know.
Oh, it's so funny. He gets his little pointer out and he's pointing at the screen and he's talking through it. And did you at least see that play where Tkachuk, it was off the face off?
Yeah.
And he had zero care in the world about anything but going after Sebastian Aho. It was hilarious.
Yeah, well, I think we've seen it time and time again from Matthew Tkachuk. He will absolutely go after anybody he chooses to. And credit to him, especially with the amount of money he's making in the game that he plays.
And in the playoffs, mind you. Like, it's not like it's just a throwaway game in the regular season. It's the playoffs.
Yeah, no, pretty impressive, and I think everybody would want a guy like that on their team.
So, was talking to a good friend. I'm not going to say his name. I've said it in the chat, but he's personal friends with. Obviously, there's still no senior assistant hire. Same coaching staff. It kind of looks like we're going to run back to the same coaching staff at this point, unless they're waiting for somebody. They have these remaining 4 teams for their season to end, so they can interview someone. A good friend who is close with Michael Peterka told me that Peterka did have interest in coming to Buffalo to be an assistant under Lindy. But, and again, these are his words, not mine. I'm just repeating what he said. The guy who's close with Petka, but apparently, according to Petka, the Sabres didn't have any interest in bringing him in.
Sounds about right.
I don't think that's like breaking news, because I feel like he was kind of available there for 2 weeks, and I feel like he would have been brought in for an interview. We would have heard about it, or if there was any speculation around a guy like Mike Petka, given his ties to the city, we would have heard about it. But definitely, again, to your point, not a surprise at all. Definitely disheartening that I think we're going to get another year of Matt Ellis, Marty Wilford, and Seth Appert. At least 2 of those 3 guys on the bench. But I don't know, man. Like, if it's not going to be Petka, there was that other guy who was just relieved out of, I want to say it was New Jersey, who's apparently one of the best defensive coaches in the league. That was a week ago, I think, when, essentially he became available, and still nothing. I genuinely think that they're going to run these same 3 assistants back. I was totally expecting Matt Ellis to be in the organization, given his relationship with Kevin Adams. But, I don't know why is it so hard to just let go of this Marty Wilford guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I really hope, also from a advisor perspective, that they are waiting for the playoffs to end and for things to ramp back up again from a discussion perspective. Like, I'm at least hopeful for that, but given the lack of anything tangible from this team since the season has ended, and even from the past few off seasons, from spending money and doing anything at all, like, I have no hope whatsoever. And something needs to be done to change my mind, because we've been proven right time and time again on this team, going out of their way to make a tangible difference to their hockey team, front office, coaching staff, everything. So yeah, I'd be shocked if they did. I'd be really happy if they did, but yeah, it's looking like they probably won't. So it's it's pretty unserious, as a lot of people like to say. And it's really unfortunate, and it's likely going to lead to a lot of the same things that we've seen over the past few years, which is super unfortunate.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, not too much. I mean, it's going to be potentially a slow time for news over the next few weeks, I imagine, aside from the playoffs, of course. And I think we just got to, stand back and stand by and see what happens. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, gosh, we have a little over a month up until free agency. So I'm sure the rumor mill Marner train is going to be super hot out of Toronto and elsewhere, and obviously related to hopefully anything the Sabres are interested in. But I think that's probably the domino that really affects everything that's going to happen for this team moving forward. If they are interested and they are involved, then anything with Peterka or Byram or any of the other free agents is going to be directly related to that. So I think we can be ready, obviously, and see what happens from there. But yeah, that's going to affect a lot that happens for this hockey team, not only for the roster, but probably for the coaching staff and the front office as well. Because if you sign a guy like Marner and you haven't changed your coaching staff yet, or if you haven't brought in a senior advisor, I think you're going to get a lot more interest, not only from guys like that, but potentially from other free agents as well. So that could change a lot. And while I don't think it's going to happen, I'm going to hold my breath and pray to the hockey gods that we could have something nice for once.
Do you think Shanahan would have any interest in that job?
I mean, I don't know what their relationship is, but he drafted him. He worked with him for 9+ years, and he put him in positions to succeed. He gave him his first big contract. Like, who knows? Like, that would be ideal to potentially get a guy who's as experienced as Shanahan is and bring him over alongside a guy that he helped mold into an NHL star. I think that would be, for both of them, not only to become a hero in Buffalo, but to be a heel in Toronto. That sweet spot of being both sides of the fence would be a pretty cool opportunity as far as I'm concerned.
He's still available. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if he got what happened with the Islanders job. I know they asked to talk to him, but he's still out there. It's not it's not. I don't think things didn't work out in Toronto, but it's still Brendan Shanahan. He turned that team around. They were a joke before him and Lou Lamoriello got there, and he completely turned that ship around. All the drama around Phil Kessel and Dion Phaneuf, and They missed the playoffs 9 out of 10 previous seasons, and now they've made it 9 out of the last 11. Like, I don't know, man. Like, the dynamics of it are just tough for me because, like, is he really going to come here and is he going to oversee Kevin Adams? Is Kevin Adams going to hire that guy to oversee him? I mean, I know that's kind of the talk when it comes to that position. Like, who's going to really come here and do this job, knowing that they're going to have to answer to Kevin Adams, who's proven nothing. But if I'm Kevin Adams, like I know that if I don't make the playoffs this season, I don't have a job, right? There's no way.
Oh, I mean,
I know there's just no way. There's no way he makes it 6 years, no playoffs.
We say that now.
I know, but so just hire him. Hire the guy with the intention we're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna hire you. We're gonna figure out this year. Whatever his title is, just get this team to the playoffs so you can at least feel a sense of job security because you finally got there. You know what I mean? Because if you don't make it, I have to believe in my heart of hearts that you don't have a job anymore. Like, the amount of leash you've had is so long. And there's just, I think, like, I know we had Fire Kevin chants at the arena, but they will be so loud at the end of next season if you don't, even halfway into the year, if you aren't on track to make the playoffs. There's no way you can bring that guy back. So why not just bring a guy in who could help you get there and avoid all that?
Seems like a good idea. Tune in and find out if they'll actually do it.
Yeah, right. I am giving thought to my final thoughts. I'm giving a thought to doing. I know you've talked about it too in the past, but I've given it, some serious thought here to kind of fill in the dead time between now and obviously free agency and beyond. Maybe doing like a mailbag. So I know we get a lot of comments here in the chat. Sometimes we don't get to them all, but I definitely like the idea of doing like a mailbag. I got some other stuff hopefully teed up here. I'm currently in talks with a local, well-known hobby shop, maybe to do some like. Did you collect a lot of hockey cards growing up?
No, not really.
No, you weren't a hockey card guy?
No.
That's kind of how I got into the Sabres and hockey. It started with hockey cards. So hopefully we're going to do some stuff like that a little bit. I know like a lot of people have kind of approached me about that to see if that's something we might do. Because I know some other podcasts do. So maybe we'll get into that just as like a time filler and some more fun. But I got nothing too. I think we pretty much had everything we want to talk about. About ready to get into the finals again. Like you said, probably a rematch of last year. Should be some fun times. But until next week, this has been episode 191 of Two Goalies, One Mic, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from. If you need a beer, make sure you make it a Fatty Beer. And we will talk to you next week. As always, go Sabres.